On the outskirts of a sleepy town, deep within the gnarly woods, there lay a village cursed by an unspeakable fate. The place had a name that made one shiver: Eldergrove. It was not just any village, it was a place filled with mystery and danger. Tales danced on the lips of villagers, who whispered in fearful tones about the evils lurking within its shadows. They warned against even thinking of setting foot there. They spoke of chilling rafters and dark shadows that seemed to breathe, of unearthly whispers that crept through the trees at night, making the bravest of hearts tremble. The villagers said that Eldergrove was surrounded by a malignant aura, which seemed to wrap around the cursed village like a suffocating fog. It was a place where the laws of nature unraveled, where the sun seemed to hide, and the wind carried secrets and sad memories. Every corner of Eldergrove hid stories that begged to be uncovered, but no one dared to approach. Many who ventured too close came back, their eyes wide with fear and their minds clouded with madness. They spoke in hushed tones about lost souls wandering the empty streets, looking for something they could never find. Some said that Eldergrove had once been a joyful place, filled with laughter and friendship. But all of that had changed, twisted into something dark and terrifying. One chilly autumn evening, a group of intrepid friends gathered at the creaky town library, their excitement mingling with fear. The library was filled with dusty old books and tall, dark shelves that seemed to whisper secrets of their own. The musty smell of old paper hung in the air as they huddled around a small table, their voices low. Among them was Lena, curious and brave, with dark brown eyes that sparkled with reckless light. Lena had always been adventurous and loved exploring places that other kids wouldn't dare to go. Her heart raced with the thrill of the unknown, and her imagination ran wild with thoughts of discovering the secrets of Eldergrove. She believed that the truth could illuminate even the darkest places in the world. As dusk settled, the chilling wind outside carried an unsettling kind of silence that wrapped around the friends like a cold blanket. They exchanged nervous glances, biting their lip and fidgeting in their seats. But Lena, with her heart pounding in anticipation, urged them forward, her voice strong. "We need to see it. If we don't go, we'll never know if the stories are true." The words came pouring out from her as she leaned forward, and with her bright spirit, she ignited a spark in the others. Mia, with her freshly braided hair and thoughtful gaze, whispered, "But what if the stories are true? What if something bad happens?" Her voice was barely audible, as if speaking too loudly would summon the shadows of Eldergrove to snatch them away. Lena brushed off her concerns with a wave of her hand. "Just a quick look around," she promised, her excitement almost tangible. Nevertheless, a small flutter of doubt nagged at her heart. She couldn't shake the feeling that something far more overwhelming awaited them. Encouraged by Lena's fervor, the group slipped into the creeping woods, where twisted branches reached toward them like fingers of an unseen force. Every crunch of leaves underfoot echoed loudly in the stillness as they braved deeper into the forest. The trees were tall and ancient, their gnarled trunks creating a thick canopy overhead, blocking out the remaining light of day. Shadows danced along the ground, and eerie sounds filled the air, from distant caws of crows to rustling leaves that seemed alive. Finally, through the cloak of shadows, Eldergrove loomed before them, shrouded in a veil of darkness. Its crooked houses stood tall yet forlorn, with sagging roofs and shattered windows that resembled grotesque sentinels guarding a forsaken past. The air was thick and cloying, suffused with the putrid smell of decay, sending a shiver down their spines as they crossed the threshold into the cursed village. A blood-curdling chill seeped into their bones as they stepped inside, the pounding of their hearts sounding like a sinister drum echoing in the eerie silence. "See?" Mia whispered, her voice barely louder than a rustling leaf. "It feels wrong, all of it." Lena frowned but pressed onward. Her fingers brushed against a rough stone wall of a derelict fence, igniting a spark of mischief and defiance. "It's just a little creepy. We can handle this," she declared, her resolve like a flame flickering against the evening chill. Together, they wandered into the depths of Eldergrove, where shadows seemed to leap with a life of their own, every creak and groan of the buildings tightening the grip of fear upon their hearts. As they ventured deeper, they stumbled upon a grotesque scene, an old marketplace long forsaken. Dust coated the ground like a shroud, and remnants of past lives peeked through broken crates and toppled stalls. Old signs hung limply, their messages faded and lost to time. In the center of the square stood a grim statue, its features twisted and malformed, seemingly caught in an unholy scream. It was a hideous portrayal of a village elder, whose eyes, now chipped and darkened, appeared to follow them as they moved closer. The stone looked cold and cruel, as if it had been weathered by the sorrows of the village. "Who made this thing?" Jason muttered, eyeing it warily. His voice wavered, betraying the fear creeping into his heart. "It's the most demonic piece of art I've ever seen." A sense of dread washed over them, and the air turned frigid. Lena felt the urge to touch it, compelled by the need to understand its horrifying presence. As her fingers grazed the cold stone, an unsettling image flashed in her mind. A figure cloaked in shadows, eyes gleaming with a ravenous hunger, reaching out towards her. With a sharp gasp, Lena recoiled, damning the foreboding vision that flickered through her mind. "I felt something. It was alive," she said, her voice trembling slightly. There was a weight in her heart, a grasp of ice. Jason merely laughed it off, but Mia looked pale, her gaze darting around the marketplace, scanning for any signs of movement. "We should leave now, Lena. This is not a place where we belong," Mia insisted, her voice shaking as she gripped the fabric of her jacket. But Lena's ambition sparked again, igniting into a flicker of obsession within her chest. She dismissed Mia's feelings, convinced that they were merely facing their fears, but the warnings echoed in her mind, almost making her hesitate. "Just a little longer," she whispered, trying to calm herself and her friends, convinced that they could conquer the darkness together. The group ventured on, drawn deeper into the eerie village, wandering down winding paths littered with dead leaves and remnants of life long forgotten. The buildings towered above them like jagged teeth, their gaping windows appearing as mouths, open in despair. Each corner seemed to hold a secret, a heartbeat of history waiting to be revealed. Suddenly, an unholy shriek echoed through the air, an inhuman sound that crawled under their skin and sent chills down their spines. The friends froze, their hearts racing together in a frantic symphony filled with terror. "What was that?" whispered Jason, his forehead glistening with sweat. Fear gripped him as tightly as the tendrils of fog swirling around them. Lena's bravado began to waver, and for the first time, a seed of doubt took root in her mind. Was this still a simple adventure, or had they walked into something much larger than themselves? The weight of the village pressed upon Lena, heavy, malicious, burdensome. Pulling the group close, she insisted they retreat before the sinister shadows consumed them whole. But as they turned to leave, the sun dipped lower over the horizon, plunging them into deeper darkness, and a dreadful realization filled the air like an oppressive fog. They were lost. The paths that had seemed winding but innocent moments before now appeared as maze-like, their surroundings shifting like lives turned upside down. Fighting against the chill creeping into their hearts, they tried to retrace their steps, but the village morphed around them, twisting and bending, leading them deeper into the labyrinth of Eldergrove. Panic surged within the group. "This can't be happening," cried Jason, his voice rising. "We need to find a way out." Dark silhouettes loomed around them, and broken echoes of their own voices bounced off the walls of abandoned buildings. Mia's earlier warnings lingered in their minds like ghosts, whispering about the dangers they might face. Lena felt her heart race as shadows danced at the edges of her vision. She took a deep breath, trying to muster her courage. "We'll find a way back," she insisted, though her voice quivered. "Let's just stick together. We can't split up." The friends huddled closer, clenching hands and exchanging hopeful glances, desperate to find a way out of the village before it completely enveloped them. As they continued down a narrowing path, they suddenly caught sight of a flickering light in the distance. Hope ignited within them. "Over there," Mia exclaimed, pointing towards the glow that danced through the trees like a star trying to break free of the gloom. Yet, as they approached, the uneasy feeling in the air thickened, like a storm ready to burst. The light beckoned them, but it was accompanied by a low hum, an eerie tune that seemed to pulse with the very heartbeat of Eldergrove. "It feels strange," Jason murmured, stepping back with uncertainty. But Lena clasped her hands together tightly, her determination refusing to be snuffed out. "It might be a way out," she declared, her brave spirit pushing the group forward, towards the beckoning light. As they drew closer, the whispers in the darkness grew louder, wrapping around them like tendrils of mist. "Stay close," Lena urged, pushing aside the fear wrapping itself around her heart. The closer they got, the clearer the flickering light became, revealing an old lamppost that appeared ancient, the light flickering like a candle caught in a breeze. It swayed gently, casting long, dancing shadows against the cobblestone ground carved long ago. They gathered around the lamppost, its glow illuminating their pale faces. "What do we do now?" Jason asked, glancing around. "It doesn't look safe." Just then, the air shifted, and an unnatural breeze swept past them, sending a chill down their spines. The group stood there for a moment, absorbing the strange atmosphere swirling around them. It felt like time stood still, each heartbeat echoing against the silence. They were in Eldergrove, a village where fear clung to the walls of houses that were alive once, where shadows glided silently, and where the stories of the past begged to be heard, and yet knew they would only bring horror. "What if we light one of those lanterns?" Mia suggested quietly, pointing to the old lanterns hanging at the fringes of the square. They could almost feel the weight of their peers fading away. Maybe then it wouldn't feel so spooky. Lena nodded, biting her lip, her gaze flickering between the lamps and her friend's uncertain eyes. "Okay," she said finally, her spirit asserting itself again. "Let's do it together." With cautious steps, they approached the lamps, hesitant yet hopeful that the light would guide them home. As they reached out to light the lanterns, darkness began to whisper. It swirled and curled around their hearts, wrapping around their fears and drawing them further into the shadows. The winds picked up again, howling through the empty buildings, pressing against them as if trying to keep them from leaving. But Lena was determined to light the way. She took a deep breath, filled with the courage and fire that always burned within her, and struck a match. The tiny flame flickered for a moment, then caught onto the wick with a small burst of light. As it ignited, the darkness retreated slightly, unable to bear the glow that chased away shadows. With every lantern they lit, the village seethed in indignation, the air swirling with anger and sorrow. Whispers became louder now, an indistinguishable chorus that seemed to weave in and out of their thoughts. The lanterns glowed warmly, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, and for a moment, the friends felt the weight of Eldergrove lift ever so slightly. "See?" Lena smiled, her determination showing through even when the shadows seemed to claw closer. "We can illuminate this place. Together, we can face whatever lurks here." The air became still again, as if the village itself was holding its breath. But the winding paths still beckoned. The fear remained, whispering endlessly as they fought to escape the village. And they knew they would need all their courage and trust in one another to navigate its unfathomable depths. As they moved forward, with flickering lights leading the way, one thing became clear. Eldergrove was something out of nightmares, filled with secrets waiting to be unveiled, a story none of them fully understood. No matter the horrors that lurked, they had each other, and together they would forge ahead, illuminating the dark spaces, one flickering candle at a time. As their laughter and shouting pierced the silence, the village sighed. Maybe this time, it wouldn't entirely swallow them whole. But one thing was certain. The adventure had only just begun. The dark echoes of Eldergrove wouldn't rest until the truth behind its curse was revealed, and the only way out was to confront the shadows lurking at every turn. But Lena was ready. With her friends beside her, she was determined to unveil the mysteries hidden within the folds of the village, to face the dark, and maybe, just maybe, bring a glimmer of hope back to the cursed Eldergrove. The night stretched endlessly ahead, filled with more secrets than they could possibly imagine. And so, they plunged deeper into the dark heart of the village, where light and shadow would twist and turn, forming a path toward the unknown. As they tread along the cobblestones, surrounded by whispered winds, Lena's heart thrummed with anticipation. It was not only adventure awaiting them but a journey challenging them to face not just the darkness outside, but the shadows within. Together, they would navigate the labyrinth of the cursed village they dared to call home, embarking on a quest filled with secrets, bonds, and the fiery determination of brave souls ready to chase the light. And in the heart of this forbidden land, they would discover what it truly meant to be courageous. The adventure lay ahead, and the flickering lights were just the beginning. Their journey in Eldergrove had awakened their inner warriors, and as they took their first steps toward whatever awaited them, their hearts glowed brighter than the lanterns they lit, a beacon against the consuming darkness. As anxiety clawed at their minds, the three friends wandered through the twisted labyrinth of Eldergrove. The trees around them were ancient and gnarled, their branches reaching out like bony fingers against the sky. Shadows seemed to shift and lurk behind them, whispering secrets they could not fathom. The chilly air hung heavy with the unsettling essence of forgotten souls, creating a sense of dread that wrapped around them like a thick fog. Each footstep they took echoed ominously, as if the ground itself resented their presence. Mia, feeling the chill seep through her skin, clutched Jason's arm tightly, her knuckles turning pale. She was terrified of what lurked in the imminent darkness, and her heart raced like a wild rabbit fleeing from a hungry predator. Lena stood beside them, fighting back the rising fear that mixed with a strange thrill bubbling inside her. She confronted her dread with bravery, secretly thrilled by the unknown dangers waiting to be unveiled. The more they walked deeper into the shadows, the more her curiosity was piqued. She sensed that the darker their journey became, the more it pulled at her, drawing her closer to its secrets. Yet, uncertainty clawed at her heart as she could see Mia and Jason growing increasingly anxious and terrified. "We just need to find a way out," Jason suddenly suggested, his voice edged with panic. But in a village cursed by time, the path forward twisted and tangled away from reason, leaving them feeling lost and hopeless. As they searched for an exit, the group stumbled upon an old, crumbling well. It was framed by jagged stones and covered in a slick layer of moss. An eerie stillness surrounded it, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves above them. Whispers floated through the air, winding around their legs like a slithering serpent, chilling them to the bone. Lena took a step closer, her heart pounding loudly as she peered into the depths of the well. It seemed to go on forever, a menacing abyss that beckoned her forward. Tremors raced through her body as she caught a fractured reflection of herself in the dark water, eyes wide and stirred by a mix of fear and curiosity. Suddenly, a guttural voice emerged from the chasm, echoing in the stillness, replaying the faint cries of lost villagers. "I remember this place," Lena murmured, a fascinated glimmer in her eyes as the chill drifted away for the moment. The town elder had once shared stories about Eldergrove with her grandmother, filled with lore about its malevolent spirits. Her grandmother had told her tales of brave villagers who ventured too close to the shadows and never returned. With each word recounted in her memory, Lena's heart raced faster, haunted by the specters of those who had come before her. They were all lost souls, trapped in an unending cycle, forever bound to the cursed village. Suddenly, Mia shouted, pulling Lena back from the edge. "Don't do that, whatever is down there, it's wrong." Mia's voice trembled, warning Lena but also filled with fear for herself. It was too late, though. Lena's heart had already begun to resonate with that blood-curdling call from the abyss within the well. There was something dark awakening within her. She could feel it, lingering just beyond the edge of her consciousness, a hunger for knowledge, for the secrets hidden within the village's twisted and tangled history. With newfound obsession brewing in her mind, Lena decided to lead the group forward. They stumbled upon an abandoned farmhouse, its door creaking open as if welcoming them in. The air inside was thick with the scent of mold and decay, a scent that made them wrinkle their noses. The floorboards groaned beneath their weight, a haunting harmony matching the vibes of their current situation. The walls were covered in faded photographs that once captured happy moments of village life, smiling faces now distorted by time, stretching into sinister grins. Jason turned one of the faces towards him, the coldness in its eyes sending fresh shudders through his spine. "Maybe we shouldn't explore this place," Mia said, her voice a whisper filled with worry as she glanced around nervously. "I need to know what happened here," Lena replied, her determination growing stronger. She felt compelled to uncover the truth of their dark history, the twisted tales that surrounded them like a shroud. Feeling compelled by her curiosity, Lena brushed through the house, examining every corner with an eager heart. "What are you doing?" Mia whispered again, her voice shaky and tense. "We should really leave." Every piece of furniture felt like it had a story to tell, and Lena was desperate to hear them, even if they were haunting. Something about this place called to her, urging her to dig deeper and not to turn back. In the attic, among broken furniture and dust-laden memories, Lena discovered an ancient diary tucked away in a dark corner. Her heart raced as she opened its fragile pages, revealing unsettling accounts of villagers descending into madness, their twinkling laughter replaced by hollow shrieks. Each story was layered with violence and despair, echoing through the scrawled ink, each tragic tale locked behind the musty pages, waiting for someone to uncover it. It was as if the diary had been forgotten, but now it had found its way to her. The last entries in the diary sent chills down Lena's spine. They warned of creatures lurking in the shadows, manifesting from the villagers' darkest fears. describing how those who ventured into the village were never truly the same. They fell victim to the madness that coursed through Eldergrove like a ravenous beast. A sinking feeling settled in Lena's stomach, gnawing at her resolve. She knew they were in danger, yet her desire to shed light on the threatening haze around them intensified, pushing her to plunge deeper into the dark history that lay before her. Suddenly, a crashing noise reverberated through the attic, sending a torrent of dust swirling into the air. The friends gasped, their hearts pounding wildly as the floorboards trembled beneath them. Thick shadows seemed to stretch and grow nearer, as if they could sense their fear. The darkness thickened, enveloping them, suffocating their belief that things would be okay. "We need to go," Mia screamed, her voice cracking with terror. Faces pale with fright, the group stumbled back down the stairs, ignoring the whispers and eerie shadows that flickered just out of sight, enticing them to stay. But as they darted toward the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang, creaking ominously in the stillness. A demoniac laugh echoed from the shadows, wrapping around them like a noose and tightening with each second. The walls seemed to pulse, emanating a deep, guttural roar, an entity feeding off their fear, growing stronger with each beat of their racing hearts. They were trapped, ensnared by the village's dark embrace, unable to escape the stories whispering around them. Mia's scream hung in the air as they fell deeper into despair. Shadows swirled around them like ravenous wolves, hungry to consume their last shred of hope. Lena felt a coldness seep into her bones, and the horrifying truth began to piece together in her mind: the ones who entered Eldergrove rarely left untouched. An icy grip tightened around her heart as realization crept quietly into her thoughts. She had underestimated the darkness lurking within Eldergrove. Suddenly, a faint light flickered from the corner of the room. It was weak, like a candle struggling to stay lit amidst a strong wind. But it called to Lena like a moth to a flame, pulling her away from the overwhelming fear and despair. She hesitated, glancing at Jason and Mia, who were frozen in fright. It was as if they couldn't move, their faces pale and wide-eyed, completely consumed by terror. "Come on, we can't give up. There has to be a way out," Lena urged, the determination in her voice cutting through the chilling echoes around them. She took a cautious step toward the light, glancing back to check if her friends would follow her. With a gulp, Jason nodded slowly, his bravery igniting. "Let's see what that light is." Mia, though still trembling, took a deep breath and nodded too, realizing that they needed to stick together if they stood any chance against whatever was haunting this place. As they approached the light, an ancient wooden chest came into view against the far wall. In the flickering glow, they could see intricate carvings covering its surface, depicting scenes of joyous revelry and ominous shadows. It looked out of place amidst the darkness, almost as if it had been waiting for them. Lena knelt beside the chest, her heart racing with anticipation. "What do you think is inside?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know, but we have to find out," Lena replied, the thrill of discovery sparking within her. Gently, she brushed her fingers over the carvings, feeling the rough wood underneath. "If this belongs to the villagers, maybe it holds the key to understanding this place." Taking a deep breath, Lena grasped the chest's rusted latch. With a firm tug, it creaked open, revealing a treasure trove of yellowed letters, dusty maps, and worn trinkets, the remnants of lives once lived in Eldergrove. They reached inside, their hands trembling with a mix of hope and fear. What secrets could be hidden within? As they sifted through the contents, Jason pulled out a crumpled map. "Look," he exclaimed, pointing to a marked path leading straight through the heart of Eldergrove. "This might lead us away from here." But as they studied the map, a chill swept over them, and Lena noticed the shadows creeping closer, as if drawn to their light and their discovery. "We need to hurry," she whispered urgently. "Whatever this place is, it doesn't want us here." With the map in hand, they raced out of the attic, the echoes of their footsteps fading against the walls as they clambered down the stairs. The moment they stepped outside, the heavy air cleared slightly, light filtering through the branches above, revealing the dark path that lay ahead. "Which way?" Mia asked, looking at the map with worry etched on her face. Lena quickly traced the marked path with her finger, her heart pounding in sync with the urgency of the moment. "This way," she cried, pointing down a narrow path that winded through the trees, leading them further into the depths of Eldergrove. Without looking back, the three friends followed the map, their fear-driven determination guiding them through the haunted village. With each step they took along the twisted path, they could feel the shadows swirling behind them, taunting, whispering dark secrets only they could hear. But together, they pushed forward, hoping to uncover the truth and escape from the clutches of the darkness that seemed to want them as its next victims. As they ventured deeper, Lena felt the strange connection to the village growing stronger. The shadows, once frightening, now felt like they were part of some ancient story waiting to be told. She could almost hear their voices, calling to her, teasing her, offering the chance to unveil their tale. Would their journey lead to the truth? Could they brave the unknown and defeat the looming terrors of Eldergrove? Only time would tell as they pressed on, their hearts beating in unison against an impending darkness that threatened to consume them whole. In the belly of Eldergrove, darkness stirred with feral rage, wrapping its heavy cloak around the small village like a predator preparing to pounce. Within this unsettling atmosphere, 4 friends huddled together, shivering with fear that coursed through them like venom. They were Jason, Lena, Mia, and their ever-curious companion, Kai. The air was thick, heavy with an unspoken dread, as lurid shadows whispered twisted tales, beckoning them to succumb to despair. "Jason, we have to find a way out. Now," Lena urged, panic rising in her voice as she gripped Jason's arm tightly. The writhing shadows seemed alive, creeping closer, as if they were part of the very ground beneath their feet. But even as the words left her mouth, dread wrapped around them all like a vice, twisting their minds into a swirling storm of fear and uncertainty. With a heart weighed down by the shadows of her failures, Lena felt a nagging pull towards the sinister corners of the cursed village. Even though her heart raced, she wasn't ready to give up hope. She believed that somewhere amidst the horrors of Eldergrove lay a clue or a path to their escape. Maybe if she could uncover its dark secrets, they could turn the tide in their favor. Yet with each step forward, the atmosphere felt heavier, as if she were wading through a shroud of unholy fog that clung to her and pulled her deeper into the nightmare threatening to devour them whole. The group dashed through the narrow streets, their footsteps echoing against crumbling brick and broken glass. Shadows loomed large and distorted around them, almost as if the village itself had come alive, a living entity that reveled in their suffering. Windows of dilapidated houses slammed shut without warning, trapping them within a labyrinth of fear and despair. Guttural laughter echoed through the night, reverberating like 100 sinister cackles, piercing through the overwhelming darkness that pressed against them. "Keep moving, don't look back," Jason shouted, trying to inspire courage in their hearts, but with each frantic glance, they could see more darkness coiling around them. They stumbled into an open clearing, hoping to catch a breath and regain their bearings, but an eerie hush fell over them like a wet blanket. It was unsettling and unnatural, a stark contrast to the chaos from moments earlier. Before them lay a colossal bonfire, its flames flickering wildly as if consuming not only wood but the very essence of light around them. The fire crackled angrily, sending sparks spiraling upwards like lost souls soaring into the night sky. Surrounding the fire were grotesque figures draped in shadows, tall and spindly beings whose faces were hidden beneath dark hoods, their forms writhing as if they were made of smoke and darkness. As they danced around the fire, Lena felt a tremor in her bones. The figures chanted in a strange language, their voices melding into a haunting melody that sent shivers racing down her spine. It was a spine-chilling tune, echoing around them, filling the night with an unholy energy that crackled like static electricity. The friends felt a primal fear grip their hearts as the realization set in. They had unknowingly stumbled into an ancient ritual, one filled with dark magic and ominous purpose. "What is happening?" Jason stammered, his stomach twisting in knots as he took a step back, unsure of what to do next. Their eyes darted around, searching for any sign of escape, but the shadows seemed to close in around them. A suffocating sense of dread weighed heavily upon them, and Lena's heart raced faster as perspective turned upside down. The very fabric of Eldergrove was entwined with the anguish and torment of lost souls, and they stood at the precipice of something truly terrible. "We need to get out of here," Mia cried out, her voice trembling under the weight of terror. She wrapped her arms around herself as if trying to comfort her shaking body, but a cold humor echoed from the shadows, a voice that promised a fate worse than death. The figures around the fire turned towards them, their faces twisting into sinister grins that echoed hollow laughter. "Join us." The voice beckoned, wrapping around Lena like an icy hand, tugging at her very essence, whispering tempting lies that wove a tapestry of despair. Overpowered by baleful desires, Lena felt an invisible thread pulling her toward the fire, urging her to let go of her fear and surrender to the darkness that surrounded them. As she stood there, torn between fight and flight, a grotesque figure stepped closer to her, revealing hollow eyes that were filled with a ravenous hunger. "Submit to the calling of Eldergrove. Embrace the darkness," it croaked, its voice rasping like a dying ember. 7 sharp, shadowy tendrils erupted from the figure's back, writhing and reaching toward the friends like grotesque serpents drawn to their warm, beating hearts. The sinister chant swelled in intensity, reverberating in their chests and filling them with raw dread. In that moment, Lena felt panic tightening its grip around her, threatening to choke the last flicker of hope remaining in her heart. But she wrenched thoughts back to her friends, their faces twisted in horror, struggling against the suffocating hold of despair that threatened to consume them whole. "We can't give in," Lena screamed, her voice shattering the enchantment of the shadows for a moment, breaking through the thick veil of darkness that tried to envelope them. But then other horrors unfolded, as a chilling scream erupted from Mia, a sound so piercing it made Lena's blood run cold. Shock jolted through her as she turned to find the shadows grasping Mia with relentless ferocity, dragging her away from the group and closer to the fire. A nightmarish force boxed Lena in, pulling at her limbs with a terrifying strength as she reached out toward Mia, desperate to save her friend. "Mia!" Jason cried out, his face wet with tears, his eyes wide with fear as the shadows hissed and swirled. The darkness pulsated and spun around them, distorting reality itself as if Eldergrove were mocking their very existence. Lena watched helplessly as the darkness engulfed Mia, and with every ounce of despair flooding her heart, Lena could only scream. Jason's anguished cries filled the air, only adding to the wake of loss that distorted the surroundings. "No, don't take her," but it was too late. The shadows devoured Mia in a whirlpool of anguish, her anguished face disappearing into the malice festering within Eldergrove. Unholy laughter danced around them, mingling with the crackling flames as Lena's heart shattered, a terrible silence echoing in the wake of Mia's absence. In that horrifying moment of despair, Lena felt a grip of madness entwining around her mind. The shadows that once seemed merely sinister now danced gleefully around the bonfire, celebrating the decline of hope. Lena could feel it deep within her. This was the insatiable appetite of the cursed village. It was hungry for fear and despair, binding them all to it, turning their lives into fodder for its eternal gloom. Overcome by hopelessness, Lena felt a weight inside her begin to collapse. Confused faces distorted into grotesque shapes around her, laughing and taunting her as if they were feeding off the pitiful remnants of her spirit. Shadows coiled around her, whispering lies that echoed through the dark recesses of her mind, fusing hope and inevitability into a single haunting truth. As the fire blazed higher, fueled by the madness of lost souls, Lena stood on the threshold of despair. The darkness of Eldergrove grew thicker, swirling dangerously close, and her heart ached with the weight of every lost dream, every stolen moment of joy. She felt as though she were drowning in the malevolence that surrounded her, an emotional tide pulling her farther away from all that was good. The realization struck her hard: the more the villagers surrendered to the shadows, the stronger Eldergrove would become. It thrived on their regret, their fear, their sense of hopelessness. It was a vicious cycle that snared souls like a hunter trapping prey. And now, it threatened to consume Lena and Jason as they stood before the fire, caught in its insatiable hunger. In a fleeting moment of clarity, Lena's mind lit up with possibilities. Maybe, just maybe, the darkness could be repelled. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage and lifting her chin, determined not to let the village win. She thought of Mia, of their adventures and laughter, and of everything good in their lives. "We will fight it," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound strength. "We won't be your puppets." Jason's tear-streaked face turned to her with a flicker of hope, and a solemn promise washed over him. Together, they would rally against the malevolence of the village. They would stand and fight for each other, for Mia, and for every lost soul trapped within Eldergrove. They were not just lost in a village, they were friends, and together they were powerful. With that spark of bravery igniting her heart, Lena extended her hand toward Jason, grasping it tightly. As they stood united, taking a collective deep breath, it felt as though a wave of warmth rushed over them, pushing back against the shadows that tried to consume them. The figures around the bonfire paused for a brief second, confused by the sudden change in the air. "What are they doing?" one of the figures hissed, shifting uneasily. The shadows shivered momentarily, as if they were unsure of how to respond to this new energy coursing through Lena and Jason. It was a moment of confusion that they couldn't afford to waste. "Remember what we said? We can beat this. Mia wouldn't want us to give up," Jason shouted with fierce determination, pulling Lena closer as he felt the shadows trying to pry them apart. In that dramatic moment, Lena realized that they didn't have to succumb to fear, they could fight against it. Together they could turn their terror into courage. It didn't matter that the village was dark and twisted. With a heart full of hope, maybe they could find a way to unravel its malevolence and escape from its grasp. With one last deep breath, they pushed forward, stepping into the circle of shadows surrounding the bonfire. They refused to allow despair to define them any longer. Instead, they would reclaim their story, light flickering against the shadows that threatened to overwhelm them. As they moved closer to the fire, its flames began to distort, flickering as it struggled to maintain its form. The grotesque figures around them wailed in confusion, their silhouettes twisting and contorting as if they were dimming in the face of courage. With every step they took, the shadows trembled. Lena and Jason were rewriting the horror of Eldergrove, taking back the power stolen from them. To embrace the darkness and despair meant surrendering to an eternal night, but to stand united against it was to reclaim their destiny. They would not just survive Eldergrove, they would conquer it. And with each brave step, they felt hope bloom anew, banishing the suffocating dread and shining like a beacon of light against the vast, commanding night. Together, they took one final stand, their hearts beating as one, ready to face whatever awaited them amidst the malignancy of Eldergrove, for it was in their unity that they learned the true strength of friendship. They would fight for each other, and no shadow could extinguish the light of hope that burned brightly within them. In the depths of Eldergrove, a haunting silence fell after the madness coiled away like a snake seeking its next prey. Lena, now truly alone, felt the chilling grip of shadows enveloping her once more, wrapping around her like dark, icy tendrils. The bonfire's flames, which had once danced brightly and offered warmth, receded, leaving only a faint, flickering glow that illuminated the faces of the lost, pale, terrified, and twisted in eternal anguish. Their expressions were frozen in time, etched with pain and sorrow. The laughter that had once echoed joyfully in the village now lingered in the air like a ghostly whisper, reminding her of the torment and despair of the souls who were bound to this forsaken village forever. Jason's desperate screams faded into the deepening night, leaving behind nothing but the oppressive silence of unending despair. He was gone, lost to the madness that had engulfed them all, and now Lena walked through the village, feeling the weight of her loneliness pressing down on her like lead. Alone in a realm where no hope could flourish, she trudged onward through a landscape of despair, each step feeling heavy, as if her feet were shackled by the loss of her friends. They had sacrificed everything to fight the darkness, but in the end, it had swallowed them whole. With every passing moment, Lena felt more like a ghost herself, wandering through this desolate place, searching for a way out but only finding a maze lined with misery. Lena stumbled into a shadow-laden alley, her heart pounding hard in her chest. The petrified remnants of her once bold curiosity had been snuffed out, extinguished like a candle blown by a chilling wind. The thrill of uncovering hidden secrets, which had once made her feel alive, now bled into a paralyzing dread. As she wandered deeper into the labyrinth of jagged-shaped buildings, the air thickened around her, swirling with the putrid scent of decay, a smell that reminded her of forgotten dreams and failed hopes. The shadows around her lurked just beyond her view, lurking like unseen enemies, whispering in guttural tones of her loss, feeding hungrily off her pain and sorrow. "What is this place?" Lena muttered, her voice trembling with uncertainty. The shadows seemed to respond, whispering back to her, coaxing her gently into their twisted embrace. "You are lost, Lena, come deeper into the darkness," they beckoned. Slivers of doubt clawed at her mind, sowing seeds of madness. She felt as if she was stuck in a nightmare, trapped not only far from home but trapped within the threads of a sorrow-drenched existence. The weight of despair blistered around her, and she felt herself being pulled into a fathomless pit, a void where joy and laughter could not exist. But where could she find solace? The answer felt elusive, nearly impossible when even hope lay suffocating beneath the cold, unyielding bond of darkness. Desperate, her heart racing, Lena rushed through the streets of Eldergrove, seeking out the ancient well. The well that had once whispered secrets to her, a place filled with memories she could barely remember. If she could just confront the abyss once more, maybe she could unearth some forgotten knowledge, or, perhaps, she would find peace and become one with the lost souls forever entwined in the village's curse. With every step, the shadows darted at the edges of her vision, vibrant and swirling, whispering her name softly, "Lena, come." She approached the edge of the deep well, peering deeply into its blackness, feeling as though it was pulling her in with an unbreakable force. The water lay stagnant and uninviting, mirroring the emptiness she felt in her own heart. As she leaned closer, her breath hitched in her throat, and her heart sank as familiar shapes began to form inside the shadows. The images of her dear friend Mia glimmered weakly, shimmering with faint traces of laughter tainted with sorrow. "Come and join us, Lena. You are not alone. Embrace the darkness," they called, voices like soft, chilling winds. Tears streamed down Lena's face, each droplet carrying a memory of laughter, warmth, and the light of friendship. Her heart ached, torn between the memories of what she had lost and the sinister allure of the void pulling her in. The shadows gathered around her, whispering promises of an end to her suffering, beckoning her to share in their eternal torment. A cruel realm where pain dissipated but haunted souls lingered, bound by the chains of their despair. Out there beyond the veil of darkness lay the madness she had unleashed. The cursed village had claimed her whole, and she could feel its cold grasp tightening around her heart. As Lena leaned forward, desperate for answers, a voice echoed through the dark, filling her mind, drowning her in an ocean of despair. "Join us, give in. Forsake your hope. Become another whisper, another forgotten soul lost to the shadows." Lena felt herself teetering on the precipice, caught between fear and the tempting, dreadful embrace of madness. Could she truly escape the fate that had now claimed her? It felt as though the shadows had locked her into a painful dance of despair, swirling around her in a frenzied twirl, each heartbeat echoing a silent scream. With trembling hands, she reached into the shadowy abyss, her fingertips grazing the cool, damp surface of the water, desperate for answers, anything to ease the ache in her heart, to find some flickering light in the endless gloom. But as soon as her fingers touched the still surface, a rush of darkness surged forth, wrapping around her, pulling her deeper, feasting on the last remnants of hope nestled within her heart. The shadows closed in, devouring her sorrowful cries, drowning out all sound until there was nothing left but maddening echoes of her despair. Forever consumed by the chilling vortex of Eldergrove's curse, Lena felt her spirit dissolving into darkness. An unending scream was caught within the well's unfathomable depths, a sound no one could hear. The echoes of lamentation reverberated through the village, a haunting cacophony that celebrated her tragic demise among the multitude of lost souls. The agonized laughter of shadows and specters filled the air, wrapping around her like a shroud, embracing her forevermore. In those final moments, Lena found herself surrendering to the dark embrace of the cursed village. The weight of despair, so heavy and suffocating, began to lift. As the maddening whispers faded into a relentless wind, she felt a strange sense of relief wash over her. No longer was she the brave seeker of the impossible truth. She had become yet another echo bound to the depths of Eldergrove, a twisted melody that would linger in the corners of reality, haunting those who dared to remember. Time lost all meaning in the dark realm of Eldergrove. Night and day blended together as if the sun and moon had abandoned this place forever. While Lena drifted among the lost souls, she could still feel them, their emotions swirling like a tempest in the air, each one another story of despair and longing. She heard whispers of children who used to play in the meadows, laughter now turned to wails of anguish as they searched for their lost parents. She felt the sorrow of parents who had lost their little ones, their hearts shattered into pieces that never truly healed. Day by day, Lena watched from the shadows. She saw villagers who once lived vibrant lives now roaming aimlessly, searching for something they could never find. Hollow-faced, they wandered like ghosts, living in a twilight existence marked only by their pain. In secret, Lena began to gather the stories of those around her, weaving them into a tapestry of forgotten memories and suffering. Each soul had a tale to share, a thread that could connect them all, a bond forged through shared loss. As she listened, the swirling darkness seemed to pull back ever so slightly, just enough to allow a glimpse of a long-lost light. It flickered as she recalled her own laughter, her friendship with Jason and Mia, and the adventures they shared in the sun-drenched fields before the shadows had come to claim them. Memories of their smiles, the joy in their eyes, began to push back against the weight of despair that had enveloped her. The shadows writhed in anger, threatened by the flicker of hope that began to kindle deep within her heart. No, Lena whispered to herself, determination rising inside her. I will not become just another whisper lost in the shadows. I have to fight. As Lena embraced her memories, the darkness that surrounded her began to quiver. The echoes of lost souls responded to her newfound strength, rising up in a swell of energy that coursed through the desolate village. It began to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat, a song of resilience against the depths of sorrow. With every soul she listened to and every story intertwined with her own, Lena started to find a way to restore light to the cursed village. They could no longer be mere victims. They were a community, bound not just by their grief but by the shared desire to reclaim their lives. She felt their pain, their love, and their laughter igniting a spark within her that would not be extinguished. Lena began rallying the lost souls around her, weaving their stories into a powerful tapestry, a connection that could not be easily broken. Together, they would face the shadows, uniting in their shared histories and memories. Lena could sense it, feel the shadows trembling as if they feared what they had created, realizing they had underestimated the spirit of those they sought to consume. The chaos of Eldergrove began to stir, and the edges of the darkness seemed to flicker as rays of hopeful light fought to break through. Together, we can reclaim our village, she urged, her voice rising above the murmurs of despair. We will no longer stay silent. We are not lost souls. We are a community, and our stories will guide us back to the light. The echoes of lost souls began to take form, brighter than the shadows that had once emerged to snuff them out. Their laughter mixed with Lena's determination, an unstoppable force that began to push back against the abyss. They gathered together, hand in hand, hearts bound in a collective rhythm of courage, daring the shadows to take notice. No longer would they submit to the darkness. No longer would they allow the laughter of lost friends and broken dreams to haunt them. As Lena led the charge forward, she took one final glance at the deep, black well that had once threatened to swallow her whole. No longer was it the embodiment of despair, it now became a symbol of defiance and unity. With that spark igniting a wildfire of hope, Lena embraced her newfound strength and prepared to lead her friends through the darkness, towards the light that awaited beyond the shadows.